Okay. Monday edition of the After Show. Got Wink and Justice with you. Wink over here on the East Coast.
And Justice on the West Coast of the contiguous United States of America. There's a lot more of America than where we come from. Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not just influence either. We actually have property.
Indeed.
Around the world. It is Metaphor Monday, of course, and this is the day that we call things what they are. We really attempt to not use any similes, and in fact, we demand that they are not allowed. It's in the style manual. Check it out. Hey, Wink, how are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. It is 79 degrees, kind of overcast, but it's going up to 81, maybe 82. So it's a typical July day. Hey, we like that. We'll take the July day every day of the year. Unfortunately, not going to happen, but we'll take the 79, 80 degrees all day long. Reminder to get in the chat, just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that, join us there.
And of course, to the leftish of the chat room link are the Contribute Donate buttons. They're definitely located for your perusal, because that's how we pay the bills. Yep. And thank you for your generosity on that. After show pods can also be had by way of Spreaker. That is the raw data file that gets released shortly after the show, and then later on, the perfected daily file, the PDF, will be available by way of Podbean, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
Okay, here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently 54 degrees, and we're going to be nearly the same as yesterday, which will be around 90. Lows at night around 57. Let's see what. Okay, yes, later on, right now we're calm, but winds will be out of the west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles an hour. And then tonight, they'll be out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Oh, you know what? I totally spaced. I meant to get up to see if I could see the northern lights, because they were supposed to. Well, I'm a little bit further south than where I could really see them if I was closer to the Oregon-Washington border, because I'm down around the Oregon-California border.
Yeah.
But, there's always a possibility. I mean, the solar plasma, it doesn't care about a few hundred miles. Come on.
No.
Shoot. But I was suffering for me, a very debilitating, an injury of sorts. I must have overworked my old aging body. I was planting trees and doing any number of things. So a lot of digging. And apparently I overworked my shoulder area. So, the big mastoid muscles that come off your neck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Down into your shoulders. Those totally locked up. And no amount of, shower massage, hot water, no ice packs. I took aspirin. That helped. I don't like to take other stuff because, I just have too much to do. And in fact, it was harder to sleep because there was no way to get comfortable. And I'd lay down and things would tighten up more. So Saturday night, Sunday morning, and I might have had maybe 20 minutes max of sleep. Now, last night, it was a little bit better. I got smart. I took some aspirin. I have a rubber mallet, and I beat the hell out of those big old mastoid muscles with that rubber mallet, and that helped a little bit. And pressure point, what I call self-applied shiatsu. I take a cane, and you can get right into those pressure points, or at the very least get underneath the muscle that's bugging you. And that hurts a lot. So when you stop, it still hurts, but it doesn't hurt as bad as what you were doing to it.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So now, knock on wood, and I'm not a superstitious person, but in this instance, I'm going to be. It seems to be loosening up some, so I guess what I can do is go out there and finish the job I didn't finish and make it worse and then be laid up for another couple of days.
Yeah.
I hate getting old, Wink.
Oh, yeah.
I never thought it was going to be like this. I mean, Everybody warns you, too.
Yeah, they do.
Everybody warns you. In fact, I'm warning people, and they give me the same look I gave people that told me that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah, well, there was something wrong in your karmic past. That's why it's happening to you. And then you
Yeah.
realize, yeah, there was something wrong in our karmic past. And that was there is an expiration date.
Right.
Boy. I just want more life, okay?
Yeah.
I'll leave the F part off. But that's just me. Oh, now I know that you did lay the blame rightly last night on your show that this confluence of stuff, and you just happened to have the Trump voters that just bought into it and stuff.
Yep.
About because I heard you questioning whether there was really, if not Russian involvement, what kind of impact they'd really have.
Right.
And
I know there's no question that there's been Russian.
And I'll tell you how that works. I'll tell you how Russian influence can work. How many people believe that Hillary was a flawed candidate?
Yeah,
who floated
I
that?
agree.
Who floated that idea? I mean, to me, it was just so transparent. It's almost like it came from somebody from Russia.
Indeed.
Because that's not an American ethos. Right. That was very foreign, and people bought into it. And I'm like, flawed candidate on our own side. Well, she was a flawed candidate. There were other candidates that would have been better, and but it's like I made this parallel before, and I'm not the only one. It's like the wife gets the hell beat out of her. She's got black eyes, bruises all over her body. And she stands up in front of a crowd to tell her story, and people go, she's kind of flawed. Maybe she should clean herself up a little bit first. It's a little bit too much like victim blaming, and I'm just saying that's just one aspect of that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Though I must say, we all of us have been loath to entertain the possibility that actual votes had been manipulated.
Yep.
Though there is evidence now, not necessarily of actual votes, but there's some odd occurrences that are now being reported that have happened. And we're going to get into that in the selection of stories that we are attending to today. And maybe I should get into them right now. Well, I will. And they are a break-in and threatening note is reported at the office of Trump Care Bill opponent, Nevada Republican Senator Dean Heller. You know how, like when they eat their own?
Yeah.
Which is just an extension. I just need to remind people. Now, I don't want to, say that Trump is Hitler, okay? Because he's not. Trump is Trump. But, the way these authoritarians rise, Putin did the same thing, okay? One of the first things that Hitler did after he gained power was purge people who were loyalists on his side, who were a threat to his power. Putin did it. Mussolini's done it. Pol Pot did it. That's what you do. So a little brown shirt action at Heller's office in Nevada. Hey. We insist that you take away insurance from millions upon millions of people because that's what Vlad wants, I guess. Well, this is the where we're getting damn close to actual vote manipulation here. South Carolina's voter registration system was hit by 150,000 hack attempts on Election Day alone. And that's just South Carolina. And they went for Trump like big time. What about the swing states? Well, they got hit even harder. And in a strange confluence of issues that just seem to have a intersection in an attempt to directly compete with Vladimir Putin, Rupert Murdoch is about to gain the power to deliver targeted propaganda to millions of customers. Because, hey, we have a lot more practice in the capitalistic free enterprise system than that guy does.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Damn right. Ooh, and on the last half, we're going to report that at a mere 3 sentences long, the treason clause in the Constitution is one of the most complex laws in Western civilization. I noticed in my show notes, I left out the one of the most. I have it as the most. It's actually one of the most because there's no absolutes. Right? Come on.
Right.
And a new study finds media coverage of female athletes is getting more sexist and more racist. Who knew?
Yeah.
Geez, all that. Plus the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes community calendar and more. And there's always more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast. His name is Wink. This guy back over here on the West Coast. My name is Justice. And I got to tell you, we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular specific and ever increasingly peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time because, well, who loves you, baby?
Exactly.
Well, the gadfly here on the neighborhood message board is now putting up YouTube evidence that nuclear bombs are a hoax. It's just another way to make us have fear and stuff. So
yeah.
I don't know. This is what I just have to say. This isn't Berkeley anymore. I thought they had some crazy ideas in Berkeley.
Right.
But at least that kind of stuff I can understand. I mean, there it's like, The Secret. Just positive thinking. If you just keep positive thinking, all good things will happen. If you don't have a positive thinking, then bad things are going to happen. I'm all, that's just so new agey.
Yeah.
So we have absolute evidence. No, you don't. Do a blind study and it's going to come out like coincidence. As if that blind study's never been studied before. Let's just sit and think positive thinking. On the other hand, I have to say, as a jock or an athlete, you always visualize what's going to happen before it happens. And you always visualize yourself in the success of it. Who wants to visualize themselves getting tackled beforehand? No, you're thinking about how not to get tackled. Right? That kind of thing. Or keeping your body in complete symmetry while you're swimming the 100-meter freestyle. You think about that. You think about your stroke and, how you're going to kick off the wall. And you do all that in your head beforehand. I mean, that's a form of positive thinking. I don't want to say that. But I kind of hate the idea that, well, you got cancer just because you didn't have enough positive thinking.
Yeah.
I hate that. That's just,
Yeah.
Because that puts the onus on people's karmic energy, I guess. And some people believe in that. And I have to explain to people, karma is not good or bad luck. Okay? You can't really look at it as good or bad luck. The lazy man's way out, or lazy person's, would be just to say karma is. Karma just is. But it's not good or bad luck, Though I suppose if you live a nefarious, dishonest lifestyle, that might manifest itself over time into something bad for you.
Yeah.
It could happen. So that's kind of like making bad karma, I guess. So, boy. All right. Well, we better get into these stories. Oh, I should say, apparently the LPGA is finishing up their championship today. I'm sorry. I was watching the tour, then I was watching the Copa soccer tournaments and stuff, and I didn't really want to give any ratings to a Trump-owned property, But nobody who is about to win wants to shake the guy's hand during the award ceremony. And I don't blame him. You never know what kind of infection you're going to pick up from that guy. Anybody who's that germ phobic has to have something wrong with them. And you don't want to catch it.
Right.
Either that, or they're afraid they're going to have their arms pulled out of their socket and they're going to have a shoulder separation and their swing will never be the same again. I think those are kind of considerations you want to consider when shaking this guy who's ostensibly the president of the United States' hand. But tour is on a rest day today. They have to. You got to have a rest day. Mostly because what they do is they ferry them, by jet from where they are to another starting point. because generally how the tour used to be before the invention of the airplane, because that's how long the tour has been going on.
Right.
They would make it so that, the start point would be like in the town that they finished up in the previous day. But now to get more of the country, and they're including more of what's known as the frontier, and that's all the border with other countries, like Switzerland, Germany, Italy, right? So to incorporate the frontier to get the parts of the heartland of France, then they have to ferry them around. So it's a rest day today. And And United States will be playing in the medal rounds they've advanced, and they seem to be the strong contender, and the Copa, and the Gold Cup, and it looks like people are shooting for them because they seem to be the strong team, which is very interesting. Amazing what a mere 30 to 40 years can do. In terms of creating championship soccer teams, because it's about how long it takes. And there we are. Yes, make America great again.
Yeah.
Just before it all comes crashing down.
Indeed.
Okay, a break-in and a threatening note to Dean Heller. How dare you go against our dear leader? We have an anti-aircraft shell ready for you. That's what they do in North Korea. At least as far as we know. This is an article by David Ferguson out of Raw Story. A break-in was reported at the office of Nevada Senator Dean Heller, and a threatening note addressed to the senator was left behind. LasVegasNow.com reported that the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department confirmed that someone broke into Heller's office on Sunset, but would not confirm the presence of a threatening note because it's an ongoing investigation and they're looking to see if there's any fingerprints and any other telltale signs. And I'm sure Fox right now is saying that the liberals did it because we do everything. Hillary planted it.
Exactly. Yep.
I'm just beating him to it. Okay. Spokesperson for the senator declined to comment, saying the office can't comment on or discuss ongoing investigations. Well, of course, everybody knows that. Heller is one of the Republican senators who has thus far refused to endorse Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's bill to repeal and replace Obamacare. He has been the target of a far-right astroturfing campaign. Hello, Koch brothers. Yes, indeed, it is them, Wink. In which the Trump-aligned group America First Priorities spent $250,000 to place anti-Heller stories on social media. Oh, the Koch brothers have their own, overarching campaign, but what this actually references are the Mercers. So when you hear stories like from the Trump web guru,
right?
There was no Russian involvement. I was dealing with Cambridge Analytica. They're the ones that got the Russian stuff, and then they just passed it to me. There was no Russian involvement as far as I was concerned.
Right.
I got my stuff from Cambridge Analytica. Okay. So, everything's fine. Don't worry. Remember when the second plane flew into the World Trade Center tower?
Yeah.
Wasn't it at that point you thought we were being attacked by a foreign power?
Yep, pretty much. First
one
was
you
just accident or whatever.
Yeah, totally,
yep.
Right? Then the second one came in, and then we heard stories of the Pentagon. And I'm like, oh, my God. And then the story of 93 going down in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, exactly.
Yep.
I got to tell you, when the second plane hit that tower, the first thing came to my mind is like, we are under attack.
Yeah, there was no doubt. Yeah.
Now, I have to say, I didn't sit around going, oh, no, especially after the Pentagon.
Right.
The Pentagon? The World Trade Center? The Pentagon? What else? I mean, we were thinking the Capitol, the White House.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
And so I just have to say, I don't remember very many people, after the second tower was hit. And certainly not after reports of the Pentagon being flown into, thinking, oh, well, this is just some sort of like low-level criminal activity from some people who, had a grievance and want some money from a bank.
Right.
Right. We thought we were at war. Someone has declared war on us.
Yep.
And I guess it's hard to get people to believe that, it doesn't matter whether we've declared war. War's been declared on us.
Right.
And if you don't think a few things are going to not blow up because it's just a bunch of, tubes, you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see. All right. 150,000 hack attempts on voter registration in South Carolina on Election Day alone. Just Election Day. And in South Carolina. Jeez. This is also by David Ferguson out of Raw Story. He's a busy fellow. Hackers made nearly 150,000 attempts to break into South Carolina's voter registration system on Election Day 2016, according to a report from that state's Election Commission. Obviously a very partisan biased report, Link. Meant to stoke the hoax.
Yep.
Meant to the hoax. Further, the idea of this hoax. There was no Russian involvement. The guy's never had any dealings with the Russians, even though there's like pictures of him signing a contract with the oligarch that introduced the woman lawyer to Don Jr. Right there, Moscow, 2013. Signing away at pretty girls, like holding the thing. Hands it over, and they hands it over to a I don't know, a line producer, I guess. And she runs off with it like, oh, we got it. I'm serious. It was at the beauty pageant. He's like signing this thing with his oligarch, a partnership. Oh, yeah. Never had any dealings with Russians, Wink, ever. Well, The Hill said yesterday that there is no evidence so far that the attempts were successful. So far. You know how that goes. Donald Trump won the state of South Carolina by large margins, and the Election Commission said that the hacking attempts were probably the work of pre-programmed bots. Of course they were. Everybody knows that. That's how it works. The report was released, however, into a politically charged atmosphere in which the Trump campaign is being questioned about possible digital coordination. I think actual physical coordination when you're meeting in hotel rooms and money's being passed. I think that, like that goes beyond just the virtual.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm old school that way. And okay, so possible digital coordination with Russia propaganda efforts, and we're looking at you, Cambridge Analytica. And top campaign officials are under fire for meeting with a Kremlin-connected Russian lawyer in an effort to get illicitly obtained information about Hillary Clinton. That's what they said they were getting. Does anybody in their right mind think that this is all about Oppo research? And when Don Jr. said they didn't really have anything of importance there, I don't think the money deal got arranged at that point. They cleaned that up a little bit later. But that's just me. I'm just like thinking how a mob businessman would think.
Yeah.
Because when I hear stories like, oh, anybody would have taken that meeting. Meaning that anybody with a nefarious, larcenous mob mind would take that. But anybody else, like an Al Gore, he would turn that over to the FBI. Trump is also floating this thing, oh, Hillary, I'd like the debate questions with Bernie. He's now Bernie's champion. right?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yep.
We didn't like the debate questions. You know what she did with those debate questions? Do you know why we know about this? They turned them over to the FBI. I don't know. Like I said, I'm old school. Yes, Russian hackers are believed to be involved in attacks on the election systems of 39 of the 50 states. Many states are using voting systems that are antiquated and therefore vulnerable to manipulation. I would like to have a voting system that's so antiquated we have to do it by paper.
Yep. That would take care of that nonsense, pretty much.
And it would be quaint. And, you know, almost like original intent.
Yep.
It would fulfill their heart's desire. Some states like Georgia have gaping security holes in their electoral software and hardware, but officials are reluctant to address them or allocate funds for their modernization because they've been winning with it the way it is. Why do they want to change it and possibly lose?
Well,
that's why McCarthy and others were told at that meeting with Ryan, what's in the family stays in the family. Don't be talking about this. And you remember what they were talking about? There are two people who were owned by the Russians. One was Dana Rohrabacher, and the other one was Jeff Sessions. Who was the other one? Flynn. And the list goes on and on and on, right? And Paul Ryan said, let's just keep this in here. But I got to tell you, you better make sure you know who your bar back is in those meetings because somebody got another video and audio out from that one. Just saying. We vetted the bartender, but we forgot about the bar back. All right. Rupert Murdoch. You know what's going to happen. He's going to ask for a merger with Vladimir Putin and Fox. And then they'll tie up the worldwide propaganda effort, and we'll have Goldstein forever and ever and ever, and Oceania will always be at war. Travis Geddes wrote this article out of Raw Story. Fox News chief Rupert Murdoch, and I want to know, why isn't this guy in jail?
Right.
Is close to finalizing the buyout of a British telecommunications company that could give him control of a detailed database which would prove irresistibly tempting for political use, warned members of Parliament. Murdoch is seeking to buy the remaining 61% of Sky. You know, he's been doing this. This was his pinnacle of his achievement. He's been doing this for, going on a couple of decades now, which serves more than 20 million customers in the UK, Germany, Italy, Austria, and Ireland. But 6 members of the House of Lords asked regulators to block the sale over privacy concerns. You know, the kind where they hack into a dead girl's phone and make it seem like she's still alive and her parents think that she's still alive so they could sell more papers about this terrible story about this girl being, kidnapped, and she's texting it now. You mean invasion of that kind of privacy? Regulators in the other 4 European countries where Sky operates have already approved the $15.3 billion sale, and British regulators are expected to issue a decision next week. Theresa May, I think so. 6 members of Parliament wrote a letter this weekend warning that the Australian-born media mogul would gain unregulated access to one of the largest and most sophisticated databases in the country, including the TV habits, internet activity, and phone records of 13 million households. Internet activity. Uh-oh. I see an Anthony Weiner problem popping up here.
Yeah.
This detailed record of individual interests and activity could threaten British democracy if allowed to fall into the hands of an owner with an appetite for political leverage, and temptations and opportunities for misuse become very great indeed, the members of Parliament warned. I love how they... Indeed. You never hear that here. The data would give Murdoch or anyone given access to the data, hey, we just have a little side agreement with Vlad here. That's okay. We also have they also have their own Georgia electoral security problems. You know, the country of Georgia. Yep. The ability to individually target the telecoms giant's customers with personalized advertisements. Hi, Wink.
Yeah.
We're looking at you. How would you like, I don't know, a car that doesn't carbon monoxide you to death?
Right.
How'd you know that my car has carbon monoxide? Because we read an email privately on Skype that you thought no one else could see, but you and Netroots Radio saw.
Exactly.
I mean, it could happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, of course, he's only doing, as the article goes on, saying what Cambridge Analytica did through social media during Brexit and the U.S. presidential campaigns last year. Yeah, Brexit. Remember that one? Mercer's, Cambridge Analytica, destabilizing the Western alliances. And what's a great way to do that? Break up the EU. And let's target people who are, you know, I don't know. Who was the flawed candidate in that one? Corbyn? I don't know. Maybe it was somebody else. The data company owned by hedge fund billionaire and Donald Trump mega donor Robert Mercer is central to investigations in both the UK and US of possible outside influence, including Russian meddling during last year's elections. If approved, the deal will give Murdoch and his two sons control of the Times of London, The Sun, The Wall Street Journal, Sky News, and Fox News. He would control people's access to the internet, TV, digital radio, and emails, warned Phil Prescott, managing director of the AI consultancy firm Filament. As an internet service provider, you can speed up or slow down certain websites to control what people see. Oh, you mean like when I'm watching MSNBC and they're getting into it like with Joyanne Reid or like on Lawrence or Rachel, and I'm watching it and stuff, they're getting into this really salient point. Malcolm Ness is like going on, he's just like, and then this thing starts buffering and the screen freezes. Then it skips. And then it comes back and, I don't know, they got like a skin cream ad. Or I don't know, maybe it's a hemorrhoids ad. Hemorrhoid cream. That's kind of a skin cream. You know, slowing down internet sites like that. How about just on cable TV? There you go.
Yeah.
And if you own all these channels, you'd be able to influence people very subtly. It wouldn't even necessarily be overtly political. You could just nudge you in a certain direction by filtering the message you receive. And those messages could be completely different from the person next door. What I find most scary about this, the consultant continued, is how certain news and information could simply be filtered out. Yeah, well, you don't want to know about the Russian stuff. You want to talk about the economy. Come on. I have to say that when those planes flew into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and then crashed into that Pennsylvania field, people weren't whining like, why are we talking about this instead of jobs?
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, Bush's approval ratings was in the tank because of his jobs numbers.
Right.
Let's talk about jobs, the things that are really important. Okay. Well, of course, on the other hand, it's only Republicans that can only like juggle one ball at a time. We are Democrats. We juggle 6 baseballs plus a sledgehammer, a chainsaw, a power chainsaw that's running, and I don't know, a bowling ball, and I don't know, maybe your second wife's mother. We're Democrats. We multitask. Oh, Well, in that case, I should mention that we might as well get to our Jim Hightower break, and we'll come back and go through the Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast community calendar, and then finish up with the last half. You are listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
Where are Charlie and Dave, Mrs. Koch's two mischievous boys? The Koch brothers have stayed out of the national limelight recently, but they're still trying to supplant American democracy with their little laissez-fairyland plutocracy. In fact, in late June, they held a meeting of the Koch Boys Billionaires Club, gathering about 400 other uber-wealthy rascals to plot some political hijinks for next year's elections. The club meets every year at some luxury hideaway, and its attendees have to pay $100,000 each just to get in. But participants also are expected to give generously to the brothers' goal of spending $400 million to buy a slew of Congress critters, governors, and others in 2018. This year, the group gathered in Colorado Springs at the ultra-luxe Broadmoor Hotel and Resort, owned by the brothers' billionaire pal and right-wing co-conspirator Philip Anschutz. Among the recent political triumphs that these elites celebrated in the Broadmoor's posh ballroom was the defeat this year of the Colorado tax hike to fix the state's crumbling roads. After all, who needs adequate roads when you can arrive in private jets? This attitude of the Koch's privileged cohorts explains why the public is shut out of these candid sessions. A staffer for the Koch confab hailed such no-tax, no-roads policies as a renaissance of freedom. For the privileged, that is, freedom to prosper at the expense of everyone else. This is Jim Hightower saying, indeed, their agenda includes killing such working-class needs as minimum wage and Social Security, and privatizing everything from health care to public education. In fact, the ultimate intention of this self-absorbed cabal of spoiled plutocratic brats is nothing less than to abandon our nation's core democratic principle of we're all in this together. If they kill that uniting concept, they'll kill America itself.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back, and thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, of course, whose intergalactic technical abilities that are so advanced they allow Netroots Radio, and thus by extension the After Show, to span the globe, the solar system, and beyond. Woo-hoo. Okay.
Heck yeah.
Today's Connect, Unite, Act Daily Codes Community Diary is facilitated by Chi-Town Kev, who opens up the diary with, do you recall a moment of hilarity in sad times? He has a great Philip K. Dick quote. Philip K. Dick, of course, who wrote the story that Blade Runner was based on and Total Recall.
Yep.
He said, "It really seems to me that in the midst of great tragedy, there is always the horrible possibility that something terribly funny will happen." When I was working in ICU and ER, I think that's probably the first time I heard of the term gallows humor. And, when you're in the midst of all this tragedy, you make jokes really to survive, to sort of lessen the sting, take the edge off a little bit. These are certainly not jokes that you would, say out in the public, like, at a bar and you're entertaining your friends. It wouldn't be appropriate. They wouldn't understand. But when you're in the midst of it all, this gore, I don't know, making some sort of weird joke. Of course, the patient doesn't hear you, hopefully. And you might make some sort of weird joke about the injury a person has. It's called gallows humor for a reason, right?
Yep.
And people do it to survive or whatnot. Now, I think what Chi-Town Kev is talking about is something a little bit more, not so much gallows humor, but things that happen in a really sad time. I would think, for me, what I would recognize, I guess, sort of like, the cosmos reaching up and, biting you in the rear, making everybody laugh, is when you're scattering relatives or friends' ashes, put your back to the wind before you open the urn. Trust me, you don't want a face full of ashes. And I've seen that so many times. Do you laugh at that point? No, maybe the first time, but after all other instances, you just kind of like stifle a snicker.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Told you. Put your back to the wind. Don't be facing the wind. Kind of like in The Big Lebowski. That's why that resonated with me, because I'd seen that so many times. Yeah. I understood it before. I mean, when I say so many times, it's because when I was chefing on the yachts, we volunteered to the Neptune Society to do scatterings, or, like cut rate, basically just the cost of the fuel.
Right.
And so I saw many, many scatterings, but and of course, the captain is putting the bow of the boat so that the ashes blow out into the bay or, the scattering area, because otherwise you have to clean all that stuff off the boat.
Right.
Right.
Sweep away. Yep.
But I knew that, long before I ever took that job, put your back to the wind. Just from doing. You learn by doing. Okay.
Yeah, that old cop show, Blue something from like the late 80s, early 90s.
Blue Thunder.
Where the guy scatters his ashes in the streets, and then the street sweeper comes by and sweeps them up.
Oh,
God, I said, man, that's.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't remember what the cop show was, but it was.
Yep, it was
late 80s, early 90s kind of thing.
Yep.
But it was kind of poignant, I guess, that oh man, kind of give a tribute to the guys that you wanted his ashes scattered in the streets, and all of a sudden, like 5 seconds later, the street sweeper comes by.
Okay. Well. All right. So events currently scheduled. Denver Cossacks will be holding their usual caffeinating liberally for Saturday of the month meeting at Common Grounds Coffee Shop at 44th and Vallejo in Denver on July 22nd from 9 to noonish. And Virginia Cossacks are invited to show up at Dr. Lori's and Gordon 224 for a meetup at their picturesque Shenandoah Valley Farm Riverbank. That's going to happen on Saturday, July 22nd at 2 p.m. So Cosmail Dr. Lori if you'd like to RSVP and attend that meetup if you're a Virginia Cossack. The Daily Co's Cheers and Jeers annual dinner is Wednesday, August 9th at Netroots Nation, of course, the night before. And that will be at White Oak Kitchen and Cocktails at 5:30 p.m. And they're located at 270 Peachtree Street, Atlanta, Georgia. And, 5:30 p.m. So Cosmail Navajo to RSVP for a seat at the tables for that event. And let's see here. Oh, I should mention also the Daily Kos Caucus will be having the Ask Me Anything about Daily Kos, and Daily Kos staff will be in attendance to answer your questions. Session will be led by Anita Lind. We know her as Navajo, Director of Community. President Will Rockefeller, Activism Team Amanda McKay, Carissa Miller, Erna Landrum, Kim Lett, Michael Langenmeyer, Monique Teal, and Rachel Collier. The editorial team of Susan Gardner, Joan McCarter, Laura Clausen, Meteor Blades, Kelly Macias, and Gabe Ortiz. The elections team, which is headed by David Nur and Jeff Singer and Carolyn Fiddler. And the social media team, Faith Gardner, Jen Hayden, that's Scout Finch, Walter Einenkohl, and Watkudi Wanjuki. And I'm sorry for butchering that last name. I apologize for that. They're all going to be in attendance for an Ask Me Anything at, that's Thursday afternoon, August 10th. 2:30 p.m. in the Piedmont Room. And on August 12th, the Daily Kos Asheville Summer Summit Meetup will be meeting up at Mount Mitchell State Park at 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. The park is located at 2388 State Highway 128 in Burnsville, North Carolina. Send Randall to Cosmail to attend. And that is your Connect, Unite, Act Daily Kos community calendar for the 17th of the 7th month of the 17th year of the new millennia. Woo-hoo!
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep, we're winding down, buddy.
Yep.
Winding it down. Okay. So the treason clause, there's only one criminal law in the U.S. Constitution, and that's the treason clause. Nothing about robbing people, nothing about fraud, right? Not even anything about murder. But there is something about treason, and it's actually the only criminal law in the Constitution. And this is by historian Brian F. Carso, jurisprudence, Doctor of Jurisprudence and a PhD, Associate Professor of History and Government at Misericordia University in Dallas, Pennsylvania. Whispers of treason become bold accusations as the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential election turns from simmer to boil. The meaning of treason, though, has always been hard to pin down, in part because it is found in two distinct realms, law, on the one hand, and on the other, the rhetorical life of our democratic republic. Hyperbole. The legal meaning of treason usually comes to mind first. As I mentioned, there's only one criminal law in the U.S. Constitution. It's one of the most complex laws in Western jurisprudence, so much so in 1807, the great Chief Justice John Marshall wrote 25,000 words grappling with the meaning of a single sentence of the treason clause. Justice Robert Jackson concluded in 1945 that the apparent clarity and simplicity of the treason clause proved illusory when put into actual practice. Now, treason is in the Constitution for a good reason. Allegiance is a necessary precondition of government, and the treason law is one way to define the citizen's duty of loyalty. At the same time, in a democratic republic that depends on disagreement and energetic debate, the restrictive nature of our treason law protects the loyal opposition. Therefore, when political candidates in the 21st century suggest that each other's policies are treasonous, we know that no one will be marched to the gallows. So far. In fact, throughout American history, accusations of treason have been much more prevalent as political rhetoric than as matters of law. The quintessential act of treason was Benedict Arnold's attempt to hand West Point over to the British in 1780. Now, Arnold escaped capture, but his countrymen promised that posterity would forever condemn his treachery. Tellingly, in the months prior to the outbreak of civil war in 1860, Harper's Weekly magazine featured a full-page illustration of Arnold meeting his British contact in the wilderness, with a snake listening from a branch overhead. The whole scene, an obvious reference to the Garden of Eden. In the story of America's creation, Arnold's betrayal had become an original sin. Now, some would argue the original sin was slavery, but, this kind of goes up there too. When George Washington learned of Arnold's treason, he asked, "Whom can we trust now?" And that simple question gets to the crux of the matter. The lifeblood of America's democratic experiment is trust. Loyalty and allegiance are manifestations of trust, the virtue that John Locke identified at every juncture of constitutional government. A society that depends on trust will naturally fear betrayal and require a way to understand treason. As a matter of fact, treason has achieved a kind of obsolescence. Today, activities that might be considered treasonous can be prosecuted on a wide array of laws that define explicit actions and precise standards of evidence. On the other hand, the Constitution's treason law is prohibitively complex and designed to be restrictive. When the farmers completed the Constitution in 1787, in the September of that year, a famous story tells of a woman who approached Franklin as he left Independence Hall and asked him, "Dr. Franklin, what kind of government have you given us?" To which Franklin famously replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." Thus, Franklin defined the moral responsibility that is the birthright of every American citizen, which is to keep it, to preserve this republic, to put some thoughtful effort into maintaining this fragile experiment in democracy. We call it treason when such efforts are betrayed. For all its hyperbole and incendiary color, talk of treason is primarily a rhetorical shorthand that conjures deep-seated feelings of loyalty, national identity, and trust. Historically, when Americans speak of treason, they do so not to identify elements of law so much as to express concern for abstract notions of allegiance and political obligation that they recognize as a profound American tradition. Prosecutors will have many diverse laws at their disposal to bring about justice should it be proved that individuals assisted the adversarial Russian regime's interference in our democratic practice, while the rest of us will gather around the water cooler or the kitchen table and talk about treason. Well, I do hear often this isn't treason. We have to be at war. And really what the good professor here is expressing is that we are feeling an attack on the trust that is the very fabric of what it is to make this experiment work. A concerted effort to destroy that trust and the fabric itself. It's quite funny because there's a story about Trump and his handshake and where he learned it. And apparently he learned it from the owner of Tiffany's. And they had come to some sort of agreement about naming rights, and Trump was going to get a lot of money. And so Trump walked out of the meeting after shaking the guy's hand, came back and said, well, maybe we should sign something to make sure, sign this other addendum to the contract I just thought of. And, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And if anything happens, and the guy from Tiffany looked at him and said, look, we shook hands on it. My word is my word. And ostensibly, Trump then went off with that, that's how I'll do business. If someone shakes their hand, I can always bring it back to him. Why would you go back on an agreement? We shook hands on it. which is funny because that's exactly what Trump does all the time. Shake hands on it. They even sign a contract, and then he totally breaks everything, and no one brings it up to him like, wait a second, you're the one that shook my hand so hard my arm almost came out of my socket. Trust. Allegiance. Loyalty. Something apparently people of in this station of life have nothing. They don't possess those qualities, apparently. It's not personal, Trump. I mean, it's not personal, as Trump might say, wink. It's not about patriotism either. It's just business.
It's business. It's all.
Business.
Yep.
Okay, we got a couple of minutes here to finish up on this media coverage of female athletes. No, this is not terribly new news, but we're apparently a new study is actually quantifying it. Good thing, too. And this is by Lindsay Gibbs out of Think Progress. While watching the 2016 Rio Olympics, Dr. Cynthia Frisbee, an associate professor of strategic communications at the University of Missouri, was struck by the amount of sexism she noticed in the coverage of female athletes. She was not alone. The internet was abuzz over the blatant sexism displayed by the media during the games, from Fox News panelists debating whether or not female athletes should wear makeup, to Katie Ledecky's world record swim playing second fiddle to Michael Phelps' silver medal. Yeah, she won a world record, and Michael Phelps got second in his race, and they didn't even name her. It said, oh, yeah, Michael Phelps got second. Oh, and some other American swimmer got a medal, too. We don't know what it was. She was a girl. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
Dr. Frisbee took things a step further and decided to properly research the racist and sexist microaggressions female athletes face. I've always been interested in media messages and the impact it has on behaviors and attitudes. People on social media were discussing how much more sexist the coverage was, and I wanted to see, did it really get worse? And her research that proved, no, the public was not going crazy or being oversensitive. The number of microaggressions against female athletes in the media increased by a staggering 40% between the 2012 Summer Olympics and the 2016 Summer Olympics. Additionally, Dr. Frisbee found that female athletes of color were subjected to more microaggressions than their female or their white female athletes counterparts, and that coverage of sports we consider to be more masculine, such as basketball, weightlifting, and boxing, was more likely to be laden with microaggressions. For the purpose of her research, Frisbee broke up microaggressions into 7 categories: sexual objectification, second-class citizen, restrictive gender roles, sexist, racist jokes, and then things that focus on traditional female appearance, focus on physical body and shape, and the use of insults and slurs. Now, of course, when we think of the Williams sisters,
right?
They're always referred to as like obliterating their opponents, overwhelming their opponents, right? Because their opponents are like little white girls and they just don't measure up. Now, some sports reporters would say, well, I'm just like giving them credence. I mean, they're just so overpowering and whatever. But I have always looked at it as, they're making the Williams sisters into like Hulk.
Right.
Let alone, I mean, you get the overt sexual connotations too. Like, are they sexy enough? Are they too sexy? Are they showing too much skin? Are they showing enough skin? Shapes of bodies, And Serena gets this all the time.
They've been around a long time now.
Isn't that amazing?
Probably, 15 years now that they've been number 1, number 2.
Now, the professor herself was described as a blonde lefty in headlines, though more often than not, her accomplishments were ignored by the news media altogether. which is an offshoot of sexism in and of itself. So Frisbee researched these topics in order to collect data that will help the media understand the power and consequences of their words when covering women, especially women of color in sports. She's received a lot of criticism since publishing the article from male sports journalists, some of whom have questioned the validity of her studies because she's a girl. Right? I think the larger issue, she said, is how complex this topic is and how hard this research is for so many male journalists to accept. Female athletes have come a long way, but sports media still has a long way to go in order to fairly cover these achievements. In many cases, these hidden and subtle microaggression messages not only demean the accomplishments of female athletes, they seem to communicate the idea that these women do not deserve to have news stories that are similar or even better than the stories written about male athletes. Frisbee wrote, "It's hard for female athletes to break through these barriers." Yeah, I think Babe Jerkinson probably experienced that early on too. Maybe Athena.
Yeah.
I'm sure her archery skills were questioned quite a bit by the others. They would be. All right, let's get out of here. We're going to have Birch Book's The Trip Goes On playing in the interim. Before Hartman comes up, Randy Rhodes after Democracy Now!, which Randy Rhodes will be on at 1 p.m. on the West Coast, and that's 4 p.m. on the East Coast. Stay tuned to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Because who loves you, baby? Okay, we'll see you bright and bushy back here tomorrow. Same time, same station. And a wink, I will see you on the other side.
All right. We're out.